The first time this giant jet takes to the skies, it is flown by a Boeing test pilot. That first flight is called a B-1 flight. After a successful B-1 flight comes the customer, or C-1 flight.
It's Boeing 006 on HAF 2851.
Captain Werner Meyerhofer, a longtime Lufthansa pilot, will do the honors with this jet.
To me, it's the best airplane in the world. I used to be on a 737 before that, and that's a nice airplane too, but this is the queen of the skies. Boeing Everett, Boeing 006, radio check.
Boeing 747-400s cost between $180 and $200 million. And customers inspect their investments inside and out before finalizing their purchase.
Fuel override center left.
Everything from vital systems like engines to cosmetic details invisible to the untrained eye are given the white glove treatment. Kicking the tires of a brand new 747-400 is one of Captain Meyerhofer's favorite job duties.
It feels great, it feels special. It's a thing you don't do very often. Okay, sail call is loud and clear.
This jet sails smoothly through its inspection flights, which means it will go through its final delivery on schedule. Final delivery is more about moving money than moving jets.
Is this the export declaration for U.S. Customs or for state tax purposes?
Imagine closing on a $200,000 house. Multiply the cost of the house by 1,000. Involve international banks, local, state, and federal taxes. Get customs agencies involved. And you have an idea of how complicated the final transaction is.
Here's the little bill of sale. Yeah, bill of sale. $12.49. Done deal. Probably not surprised. We have a couple of keys to the cockpit. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Finally, the deal is done. Boeing's 1,293rd 747 becomes the newest addition to Lufthansa's fleet. The ink on the paper is still wet, and Captain Meyerhofer is taking this brand new jet from its Western Washington birthplace to its new home in Frankfurt, Germany. No matter what role a person plays in taking this jet from parts and boxes to its final takeoff from Painfield and Everett, the moment it leaves is as grand as the jet itself.
When you first see one take off on a delivery to a customer, taking off the airfield, it's a really good feeling. It's very satisfying. It's hard to describe. It's overwhelming, really. It really is.
Every time a brand new 747-400 takes to the skies and leaves Boeing's Everett plant, it's a testament to this company's vision. The origins of the 747's design go back to World War II and Boeing's military bombers. In particular, the B-47, the first swept-wing jet bomber. The origins of the 747's purpose go back to Boeing's dominance in the passenger airline industry. Boeing's 10-passenger Model 247 was dubbed the first modern passenger airliner when it debuted in 1933. Prop planes got people where they needed to fly until Boeing introduced the first jet passenger liner in 1954. The 707, or Dash 80, is the queen mother of all modern-day Boeing commercial jets.
In the 60s, the development of the jet airliner really was coming into its own. You had the 707 and DC-8 in the States, the Convair family, VC-10 in Europe, and a myriad of new developments that were coming through in short to medium range airliners too. And what they were doing were establishing the new levels of safety and reliability in air transport.
In the mid-1960s, the world economy was booming. The population was growing. and passenger demand for jet travel was rocketing at the rate of 15% a year. Suddenly, Boeing 707, which carried 120 passengers, just wasn't big enough anymore.
This was just so far beyond the capacity of the airlines to deal with at that time. So the airlines themselves were feeling the onslaught of this great demand, and they were the ones that started knocking on Boeing's door to say, hey, we want something bigger, we need something bigger.
Juan Trippe, chairman of the then industry giant Pan Am, knocked the loudest in 1966. If Boeing could develop a jet that could carry 350 passengers at Mach 0.9 on transoceanic routes, Pan Am would buy. Boeing said Pan Am had themselves a deal. During development, there were people who doubted this jet would ever fly.
I was asked to head up a small study group.
Joe Sutter was director of engineering on the 747 program and is thought of as the father of the jumbo jet.
We knew we could do the airplane from an engineering standpoint. What the airplane looked like was the biggest question.
Two versions of what the Boeing 747 could have become are this double-decker jet and this wide-body that was nicknamed the Anteater. Today's jet more resembles the Anteater with its wide body and flight decks separate from the main deck cabin area. And what about the 747's most distinctive feature, the hump?
The rumor that it's the hump's here so the pilot can sit on his wallet isn't true. Well, the hump was part of the fact that we wanted to make a freighter airplane. So we put the cockpit above the main deck so we could have nose-in loading.
The 747 has the distinction of carrying more cargo than any other jet in the world.
So the 747 passenger airplane is truly amazing, but the freighter is awesome. It's the most economical way you can ship freight by air, whether it's 1 ton or 120 tons on the airplane. We've carried everything from whales to oil drilling equipment to a fleet of racehorses.
There was no way to predict the 747's success back in the late 60s.
You've got to remember, this airplane was so big. It was 2.5 times larger than the largest airplane in the sky at the time in terms of passenger capacity. It was a giant by every measurement.
On a wet February day in 1968, 747 number 1 was about to fly for the first time.
I took my wife, Nancy, and put her where the airplane was going to lift off, because so many people had asked her the question, does your husband know this airplane will even fly? So I told Nancy, we know how it's going to fly, and if you stand here, the airplane will take off right here.
Brian Weigel was co-pilot aboard the brand new jet.
Spread them around for me, Brian. Watch those hips. It was with great relief, I think, when we finally taxied out and everything was working and the engines were running fine and we were okay. I think when we lifted off, it sent a great surge of emotion through us. We were busy, so we didn't hoot and holler, I don't think. I think we looked at each other and grinned broadly, but, you know, we had radio communications and things to do.
The biggest, newest jet in the world defied her detractors and gravity with that flight.
And here was this huge airplane that a lot of people didn't see how it could get in the air just because it was so big and so heavy, you know. And there it was, flew beautifully, came back, landed beautifully, taxied in.
Okay, Jack. Natural question is, what are your impressions?
Something that thing is just ridiculously easy to fly. It's just a pilot's dream.